In a dimly lit apartment building nestled deep within the heart of a bustling city, a sense of foreboding always lingered in the air. Apartment A on the floor was infamous among the residents for the strange occurrences that took place there. It all began with the mysterious disappearance of the previous tenant, Johnson. He had lived alone, an elderly man who rarely ventured out of his apartment. One day, he simply vanished without a trace. Police were baffled, unable to find any leads or clues to his whereabouts. The next tenant to move in was Sarah, an artist seeking solitude and inspiration for her work. She was initially captivated by the vintage charm of the apartment, with its creaking wooden floors and antique furniture. But soon she began to experience a series of eerie events that sent shivers down her spine. One night, as Sarah was working on her latest painting, the lights flickered and dimmed. A cold draft swept through the room, and she heard whispers echoing from the dark corners. Terrified, she called out, but there was no response. It was as though the very walls of the apartment were closing in on her. Things only escalated from there. Objects moved on their own, footsteps echoed in empty rooms, and Sarah often woke up in the dead of night to find strange symbols etched onto her bedroom walls in a dark, viscous substance. She felt a malevolent presence lurking, watching, and waiting. Desperate for answers, Sarah delved into the history of the apartment building. She discovered that it was built upon an ancient burial ground, and rumors abounded of a curse that had plagued the floor for generations. Supposedly, those who dared to occupy it were doomed to encounter unspeakable horrors. One fateful night, Sarah decided to conduct a seance, hoping to communicate with the spirits that haunted her apartment. As she lit candles and chanted incantations, a sinister force erupted, causing the very walls to groan in anguish. A spectral figure materialized before her, its eyes hollow voids of darkness. The entity spoke of ancient pain and suffering, of souls trapped between realms, seeking vengeance for the desecration of their resting place. It vowed to torment anyone who dared to reside in it until justice was served. Terrified and with no other recourse, Sarah fled the apartment, leaving behind her belongings and her art. She warned the building's management, but no one believed her chilling tale. Over the years, the apartment remained vacant, its reputation as the most haunted place in the city solidified. The chilling occurrences continued, with each new tenant enduring increasingly horrifying encounters. As time passed, apartment A became a legend, whispered about in hushed tones among the residents of the building. To this day, it stands as a grim testament to the horrors that can unfold when one dares to dwell within its cursed walls, a place where the line between the living and the dead blurs into an eternal nightmare. In the dimly lit apartment, shadows danced menacingly across the cracked, peeling wallpaper. It was a place where fear had taken residence, and the echoes of past horrors whispered through the creaking floorboards. Sarah had moved into the apartment with excitement, unaware of its dark history. She was drawn to its affordable rent and the promise of a fresh start in a new city. Little did she know that her decision would unravel a nightmare beyond her wildest imagination. The first unsettling sign occurred on her very first night. As she lay in bed, a faint scratching sound echoed from the closet. Heart pounding, she summoned the courage to investigate. To her relief, she found nothing amiss, attributing the noise to rodents. But it was just the beginning. Soon Sarah began experiencing sleepless nights. Whispers of eerie voices, too faint to comprehend, filled the air. Her dreams were plagued by ghastly apparitions, clawing their way into her mind. Desperate for answers, she began researching the apartment's history. Her findings were chilling. Decades ago, the apartment had been a den of malevolent practices, hosting seances and dark rituals. The tenants who had lived there before her had all fled, driven to madness by unseen forces. Determined to confront the malevolence head-on, Sarah invited a paranormal investigator named Alex to her apartment. Armed with an array of ghost hunting equipment, they embarked on a terrifying journey into the unknown. As night fell, the apartment transformed into a realm of horror. Objects levitated, walls bled with an otherworldly crimson, and chilling laughter echoed from the shadows. The duo's equipment went haywire, capturing chilling eeps and spectral images. Drag Sarah and Alex into the abyss. With no other option, Sarah and Alex turned to a reclusive occult expert named Evelyn Blackwood. Armed with ancient incantations and forbidden knowledge, she led a final, desperate confrontation with the entity. In a climactic battle of wills, the apartment became a battleground between the living and the damned. The very walls seemed to pulse with malevolence as the entity fought fiercely to maintain its hold on the apartment. Ultimately, Blackwood's ritual prevailed, and the apartment's dark history was sealed away. But the price had been high, and Sarah and Alex emerged forever scarred by their nightmarish ordeal. The apartment, now an empty, lifeless shell, stood as a testament to the horrors that lurked within its walls. It was a place where darkness had triumphed, a chilling reminder that some nightmares are all too real. In a dimly lit, run-down apartment building on the outskirts of a forgotten city, an unsettling air of dread hung heavy in the air. The building's name, the Whispering Heights, had earned its reputation as a place where unsettling events transpired. Apartment B, located on the 13th floor, was the epicenter of these sinister occurrences. No one knew much about the tenant of B except for their name, Blackwood. Rumors swirled like ominous shadows through the building's corridors, tales of strange noises emanating from within, unearthly whispers at night, and mysterious shadows seen moving behind closed curtains. Many tenants had moved out, citing sleepless nights and inexplicable terror as their reasons. One stormy night, when lightning cracked the sky and the rain poured in torrents, a young journalist named Sarah, intrigued by the apartment's infamous reputation, decided to investigate. Armed with a notebook, flashlight, and trembling courage, she made her way to the 13th floor. Upon reaching the door of B, Sarah hesitated, her heart pounding. She raised her hand to knock, but before her knuckles could make contact, the door creaked open slowly as if beckoning her inside. Fear clenched her chest, but curiosity compelled her to enter. The apartment was shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by the sporadic flashes of lightning outside. Sarah's flashlight flickered to life, revealing a room that seemed to defy the laws of reality. Odd symbols covered the walls, and eerie paintings depicted unsettling scenes. She felt a presence, an oppressive energy that seemed to close in on her. As she moved further into the apartment, Sarah heard faint whispers, voices that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Leave, they hissed, but she pressed on, her journalistic determination overriding her fear. In a room at the back of the apartment, Sarah discovered a locked door. Desperate to uncover the truth, she found a key hidden under a dusty rug and cautiously unlocked it. What lay beyond was a nightmare made flesh. A room filled with ancient tombs and arcane artifacts, an altar with candles flickering, and a large, ornate mirror that seemed to hold a reflection of another world. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of eerie voices urging her to leave, but she couldn't tear herself away from the mirror. Suddenly, the mirror began to ripple like a dark pond disturbed by a stone. Sarah watched in terror as a shadowy figure emerged from its depths. It was Blackwood, but not as she expected. His eyes glowed with malevolence, and he spoke in a voice that echoed with ancient knowledge. He revealed the apartment's true nature, a gateway to the otherworldly realms, a place where dark rituals were conducted. Blackwood had harnessed unimaginable power, and now he sought to draw Sarah into his sinister plans. With every ounce of strength, Sarah turned and fled, the whispers pursuing her down the corridor. Lightning illuminated her path as she raced to escape the Whispering Heights. She made it out, but the terror she had witnessed in B would haunt her dreams forever. The sinister secrets of that accursed apartment remained hidden, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to stumble upon them, while the Whispering Heights continued to live up to its chilling reputation, a place where the line between the living and the supernatural blurred into an abyss of fear and darkness. In the dimly lit apartment building at the edge of town, a palpable sense of dread clung to the air like a suffocating shroud. It was the sort of place where the elevator always seemed to creak and groan as if struggling against some unseen malevolence. The residents, those few who remained, whispered of strange occurrences that defied rational explanation. Sarah, a young woman with a penchant for the supernatural, had moved into the apartment complex just a month ago. She was drawn to its eerie ambience, the way it seemed to hum with a sinister energy that both fascinated and terrified her. Little did she know that her curiosity would plunge her into a chilling nightmare. One stormy night, as rain lashed against the windows and thunder rattled the building, Sarah heard a knock on her door. She hesitated, for she lived alone, and it was well past midnight. Slowly she approached the door and peered through the peephole. A shadowy figure stood in the hallway, drenched from the rain, their face obscured by darkness. With trembling hands, Sarah opened the door a crack and inquired, "Who's there?" A low, raspy voice replied, "I need shelter from the storm. Please let me in." Against her better judgment, Sarah unlocked the door and allowed the stranger. Sight. He was soaked to the bone, his clothes clinging to his gaunt frame. He introduced himself as Michael and explained that he had been wandering the streets aimlessly when the tempest had struck. Sarah offered him a towel and some dry clothes, and as he changed, she couldn't help but feel a growing unease about her mysterious guest. The air in her apartment seemed to grow colder, and shadows danced in the corners of the room. As the night wore on, Sarah and Michael engaged in conversation. He spoke of strange occurrences in the building, of whispers in the walls and phantom footsteps in the hallways. Sarah, captivated by his stories, began to feel a deep connection with this enigmatic stranger. But as the clock struck M, Michael's demeanor shifted. His eyes, once warm and friendly, turned cold and hollow. He spoke of a malevolent presence that dwelled within the apartment building, a presence that demanded sacrifices to satisfy its insatiable hunger for souls. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the truth. She had unwittingly invited something sinister into her home, something that had used Michael as a vessel to gain entry. Desperate to escape, Sarah rushed to the door, but it slammed shut with an otherworldly force. Michael's laughter echoed through the apartment as he revealed his true form, a grotesque, shadowy figure with elongated limbs and eyes that glowed with malevolence. Terrified and cornered, Sarah tried to fight back, but her efforts were futile against the supernatural entity. She could feel its icy grip tightening around her soul as it dragged her into the darkness. Days later, the police would find Sarah's apartment empty, her belongings scattered, and the walls covered in cryptic symbols. The building remained an eerie, abandoned husk, its terrifying secret locked within its walls, waiting for the next unsuspecting tenant to unlock the door to their own horrifying fate. In the heart of a bustling city, nestled between towering skyscrapers, stood an old, decrepit apartment building. Apartment B in particular had a sinister reputation that sent shivers down the spines of its residents. The walls seemed to whisper secrets, and the air hung heavy with an unexplainable dread. One gloomy evening, a young couple, Sarah and David, moved into apartment B, hoping to find an affordable place to start their life together. As they lay in bed, the couple heard faint footsteps in the hallway, growing louder with each passing second. Panic set in as the footsteps seemed to approach their bedroom door, but when they flung it open, there was nothing there. Just an empty, dimly lit corridor. Over the following weeks, strange occurrences became a nightly ritual. Whispers echoed through the apartment walls, too faint to discern words, but filled within otherworldly malevolence. Shadows danced in the corners of their vision, darting away whenever they tried to focus on them. One evening, while Sarah was alone in the apartment, she felt a frigid hand grip her shoulder. She turned to find no one there, but a chill ran down her spine as the whispered words became clearer. "Leave," they hissed. David, a skeptic by nature, dismissed her claims as mere paranoia. But as days turned into weeks, he too began to experience the unsettling presence that seemed to pervade apartment. One fateful night, David awoke to find a shadowy figure looming over him. Its eyes glowed with an eerie crimson light, and its ghastly form seemed to flicker in and out of existence. He tried to scream, but no sound escaped his lips. With a guttural growl, the apparition lunged at him, passing through his body, leaving him trembling in cold sweat. Desperate for answers, the couple reached out to a local paranormal investigator, Dr. Amelia Blackwood. She arrived at apartment armed with a collection of tools meant to communicate with the supernatural. As Dr. Blackwood began her investigation, she sensed an overwhelming malevolence in the air. Her equipment flickered and crackled, capturing faint, distorted voices begging for release. She shared her findings with the couple, urging. The apartment's malevolent force intensified. Objects levitated and slammed against walls, furniture moved on its own, and the couple's dreams were plagued by terrifying visions. Sarah's hair began to turn prematurely gray, and David's once robust health deteriorated rapidly. Desperation finally drove them to research the apartment's history. They discovered that a sinister cult had once occupied the building, conducting dark rituals that had left a malevolent residue behind. Apartment B had been a focal point for their macabre practices. With newfound determination, Sarah and David contacted Dr. Blackwood once more, who arrived with a plan to cleanse the apartment of its dark presence. Together, they performed a ritual to banish the malevolent spirits once and for all. As they chanted ancient incantations, the apartment quaked with anger. Shadows writhed and screamed, and the air grew icy cold. The malevolent apparitions materialized, their crimson eyes filled with rage. But the trio stood strong, determined to free themselves from the apartment's curse. With a blinding flash of light, the spirits were cast back into the depths of the supernatural realm. The apartment fell silent, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. In the aftermath of their harrowing ordeal, Sarah and David finally found peace in apartment. They transformed it into a warm and inviting home, free from the horrors of its past. Dr. Amelia Blackwood left, knowing that she had made a difference in their lives. Yet, whispers of the apartment's dark history lingered, a cautionary tale for those who dared to venture too close to the shadows. Apartment B stood as a chilling reminder that some places hold secrets too terrifying to fathom, and that the boundaries between the living and the dead are sometimes thinner than we dare to imagine.